Hello everyone, Lawrence here from Unicorn Reviews. Today we're looking at that case right there, the Aerocool Aero 500. I've done some really expensive PC case reviews in the past, but I wanted to do something more affordable. So this is under 50 euros. It's actually only 44 where I bought it, which I guess makes it great value, but is it actually any good, or was there too much cost cutting involved? For this video, I'm going to work my way from the outside in. So let's start with the box. The box is brown, it's very narrow, and packaging is quite horrible. This case weighs next to nothing because it's made out of really thin metal, and still the styrofoam packaging was cracked and the top I/O plate even came out, which is not very good if you ever want to put the hardware in it and ship it then. So I wouldn't recommend ever buying this case with hardware already in it, shipped in the original box, because that's a horrible idea. Anyway, moving on to the case itself. Everything's made out of metal except for the front panel, and of course this top thing is metal, but the I/O thing with the USB connectors and everything, but more about that later, that's plastic made to look like brushed aluminium, which is actually pretty good because it doesn't attract fingerprints as easily. Let's start at the top. So on the top we have our power button, our reset button, very nice click to those, which is really nice. We have a 2-channel fan controller with 2 fans per channel, so you can control 4 fans from the top of your case without having to buy an external fan controller. Really great addition, and everything's also very nicely labeled, so that's really nice. And then to make it even cooler, there's also a off mode, so you have low mode, high mode, and completely off. I/O is again really good. We get 2 USB 2 ports, a microphone in, audio out, and we also get a single USB 3 port, which I guess is kind of stupid because it's the same size as a 2-port hub, so why not just put 2 ports on there? I don't know. It's probably to save costs. Now on the top you have room for 2 120mm fans or a 240mm radiator, and they're elongated holes so you can slide it around, so the spacing on that radiator doesn't really matter all that much. Really good that they thought of that. And it's also, the roof is raised a little bit, so there is definitely room for a slim radiator with fans on one side. No push-pull thick radiators, of course, with a case this size. Now on the front we get this really nice design where the top is overhanging the front panel a little bit. There's room for 2 optical bays. They are very easily removable. You just pull the latch and they come off. Great to see that. The front is an entire mesh thing room again for 2 120mm fans. No 140s here. So you can put one in the middle and to cool your graphics card, and one in the bottom to cool your hard drives, which I guess I kind of like, but you have to pull the front panel off to install them, which is not really the easiest thing to do, even though it's all just plastic. Now a really cool thing with this mesh is that there is a very dense foam on the inside, so all the dust will get filtered there, and it also gets filtered of course at the top with that magnetic dust filter. However, if we move to the side, there's a hole for 120 or 140mm fan, and they forgot to include a dust filter there. Now what that pretty much means is that if you use the top as an exhaust or the rear as an exhaust, because it comes with a single rear fan, all the dust is still going to come in through that hole in the side panel, which I guess is kind of stupid. On the other side, there's also a massive bolt out of the side panel, and this is where all your cable management happens. So we're just going to move inside the case right now and start with the back of the motherboard tray. There's a lot of options here to install an SSD. You can do all your cable management here. All the holes are rounded so you can't cut yourself on them, but there are no rubber grommets, which is kind of expected from a case of 44 or 45 euros, whatever it was. Now, there is no room there if it wasn't for the bolt, so you have to make sure that all your cables stacking, or actually all of your cables, really have to be in the center bit, so that the side panel goes back on without making it bend quite massively. So that's something to really keep in mind. Now moving on to the other side of the motherboard tray, the part where all the hardware goes. Let's just start at the back, move our way forwards. So there is a huge CPU cutout, so you can easily install your CPU coolers when the motherboard's already in there. Great to see, but it's kind of a standard, so no thumbs up for that stuff. It should just have it. So 6 of the motherboard standoffs are already installed. So those are for narrow ATX, which I guess a lot of budget boards are nowadays, thanks to ASRock. And I really hate narrow ATX boards because they always flex a little bit. But this is a case review, not a motherboard rant. So you have to still install the other 3 if you're going with a normal size ATX board. But that's kind of well, normal, really. Now, there is a bit of an issue that I have with the back of this case. So one of the PCI extension slots you can take out and put back in. Why not all of them? I mean, it really doesn't cost that much extra to do it that way. So right now the top one, so one, even though all graphics cards are dual slot, only the top one is reinstalled. All the other ones you just break out and you can't put back in. So I would really like to see that change, because you are still spending 50 euros on a case, which I guess is some money. So why not give you some PCI slots that you can reinstall? Now, other than that though, everything's pretty solid inside there when the side panels are on. Without the side panels you can just flex the case out, you could probably break it, but the side panels are really strong, so that's kind of where most of the strength comes from with this case. Now, moving more towards the front, there are of course plenty of holes for your cable management. There's room, as I said, for 2 optical drives. There's also a smaller slot where you can put in an extra SSD or hard drive. So it kind of shows that the front side comes from another case that they made previously, because there is no cutout in the front panel to access like a 3.5 inch device, like, I don't know, whatever uses that sort of stuff. A floppy reader, yeah. So it's weird to see it, but you can put an additional SSD in there. And then in the bottom there is a toolless hard drive rack. Pretty sturdy there. You can put 3 hard drives in there, which is pretty good, I guess, but the brackets themselves are all plastic and there's no way to solidly mount it with screws. And I kind of like to just screw stuff in place. I don't know why, but I don't like stuff just held in place with tiny plastic clips. And for the power supply, you have 2 little foam standoffs, so the vibrations are cancelled out a little bit. That's pretty good. It just screws in with normal screws, nothing toolless happening there. The only thing with thumb screws are actually the side panels. So I guess you do get a dust filter in the bottom. It's one of the horrible kind of dust filter, which people shouldn't use, and they still do because they're cheap, and this is a very budget case. So I kind of understand a few of these choices that Aerocool made with this case, but at the same time it's a bit weird, because if you spend just a little bit more, if you move towards the 70 or 80 euro bracket, you get so much more features on a case. Now, as the people who are following the channel probably know, is I usually do a review video and a build video separately, but in this case I won't be doing a build. Basically, I have my case right there. I don't intend to use this. I just bought this case to make a video to show how good a case can be under 50 euros. And this case actually is pretty damn good for the value and for what you pay for it. And even though the cables are like a very colorful mess, there is no side panel windows, so I guess it doesn't matter too much if you're not modding the panel, but if you're modding a panel, you can just sleeve cables yourself anyway. So I won't really be harsh on that stuff. It is 44 or 45 euros, and you get stuff like fan controllers and 3 USB ports on the top. All that stuff, very nice to have. So I guess if it really comes to a conclusion, would I recommend this case? I guess maybe. It's a definite maybe here, because if you spend just a little bit more, you can get something like a Source S340 by NZXT, which is twice the case this is in terms of build quality and in terms of like finish and just quality feel. But if you're really on a tight budget and you want something that looks good and you want to have a great fan controller where you can even turn the fans off, then this is probably something for you. And if only they put like a little dust filter on the side intake, or just remove the side intake completely and made it slightly wider, it could be a very good case. Because at the start of the video I mentioned that there is room for a radiator in the top and 2 intake fans in the front, but this case only supports CPU coolers up to 155 millimeters. Now, those of you who are kind of into this whole case stuff will know that that means you can't install a CPU cooler with a 120 millimeter fan, because for that you need 160 millimeters. So it's just a really annoying choice of them, and yeah, they should have made it slightly wider, gave you like at least 1 centimeter of cable management room, because there is absolutely no space in between the flat side of the back panel and the motherboard tray itself. And then they could also have made it slightly wider on the inside so that you can actually put a decent sized CPU cooler on there, because a lot of people want to put giant coolers on stuff without having to spend all the money on an all-in-one liquid cooler, which, let's be honest, doesn't perform very well anyway. So yeah, it's a very mixed bag, and if you are for a case like this and this is in your budget and you don't want to spend more, great, buy this case. It's great for the money you spend on it, but I would recommend spending a little bit more. on your case. Anyway guys, if you like this video, press the like button. If you didn't like the video, there's always the dislike button, and there's also the subscribe button, because eventually I will make a video that you do like, so hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And for now, thank you very much for watching. If you want to get more frequent updates, you can of course follow me on Facebook and Twitter, but if that's too much stuff going on for you, then there's still just the usual videos on Tuesdays and Fridays. Thank you very much for watching.